Hi, hello, welcome to my corner of the internet. My name is Fats. I was thinking, after this past vlog, I was thinking about genres that I don't talk about that much on this channel. I feel like I get so wrapped up in fantasy and in science fiction and weird literature and romances and monster romances that there are some genres that get pushed to the back. Not that they mean any less to me, it's just that in the space of booktube, I feel like there are certain genres that I feel I gravitate towards most because I think that's what the booktube audience wants to hear about. And after how much joy I felt sharing manga, I thought about how there is one other genre that I haven't been sharing, and today we're going to do that, and we're going to talk about poetry. I see poetry as something that has really shaped who I am today, how I think, how I feel. I think all books do that, but it wasn't until poetry was able to speak to thoughts that I have and shed a light on them in a way that I didn't think was possible, that I truly started interacting with certain themes and interacting with myself. Not to sound like horribly trite, but that's how I feel about poetry. And today, I just picked 5 random books that I wanted to talk about. I tried to make sure they all handled kind of different themes. I didn't want to bring you this list of books and they're all hammering the same thoughts. So I have 5 books, different themes. I love all of these. They don't necessarily have any different ranking from one another, but I would say, I don't know, when it comes to poetry, I struggle to rate. I also stopped doing star ratings on this channel in general, so it's not like I have to sit here and struggle to tell you, like, these are all my 5-star. I don't rate on this channel anymore. I love these. I love poetry. Even poetry books that don't hit me quite as hard, I can see how they would hit their audience hard. And I have one like that here. Let's jump right into it. The very first book that I want to talk about is Autopsy by Donte Collins. This is a meditation of grief, but it exists with grief in a way that's empathetic to grief in the same way I would be empathetic to a person. It allows it to exist. It doesn't try to change it. It doesn't try to banish it. It doesn't try to bury it. Grief in here is something that exists with Donte and exists with the reader and exists with the author in a way that doesn't necessarily erase the singularity of our speaker, because I do think there's a very intense singularity of this speaker. But then to bring in the title Autopsy into it, there isn't really a medical nature to this autopsy. I would say the autopsy feels the same way a plow feels to soil. It doesn't feel surgical. It feels agricultural. I have no better way of saying that. Autopsy is a title that I do think fits so well. Donte Collins actually wrote this right after the passing of his mother, and dealing with these themes of the dynamics of grief and the visceral emotion that is grief, the personhood that is grief, the presence, and also seeing it as an action, a space holder. It really makes grief this 3-dimensional being, while also never demonizing it and never demonizing these emotions, which I think is so beautiful. I would say that these poems move as a thawing. I think that, of course, like, poets, when they put together a collection, they're always putting it together as with intention. It's always intentional, the order in which they put these poems, and this one feels like a thawing. I marked a couple just so you could get a feel. But the first one I want to share with you is, and I marked a couple in all of these, we're just hanging out and reading poetry. It's such a chill day. It's gloomy outside. I'm coming down with a cold. I'm not feeling tip top. My throat is sore. Let's just hang out and read some poetry. Death ain't nothing but a song. My mother moved out of her body, decided it was no longer worthy. It couldn't contain her laughter. She couldn't obey the house rules of human. Her spirit, that young and fresh fever, wanted to call the night her dance club, wanted to try on new clothes, stay out later. My mother now wears the world, dresses herself in the tall grass, blushes her cheeks with red clay. She laughs and a forest fire awakens. She laughs and every mountain bows to her sharp thunder. She laughs and each cicada begins to sing. Last night St. Paul was cloaked in steam. Fog traveled from some distant heat. No, I think you've got it all wrong. Someone must have asked my mother to dance. This is the opening poem to this collection, and I think it's so beautiful to position his mother in this way. I think it sets the scene of this grief and of this love and of their relationship, and also this idea that my mother now wears the world, dresses herself with the tall grass, the expansiveness of somebody that has passed, the expansiveness of grief, the power of grief. Now, I told you how it feels like it's thawing through the story. The second poem that I marked out is about halfway through. So you can see how this transition of grief and how this transition of feeling gross thaws, moves. What the dead know by heart. Lately, when asked how are you, I respond with a name no longer living. Raych, Jamar, Sandra, Philando. I am alive by luck at this point. I wonder often if the gun that will unmake me is yet made. What white birth will bury me? How many bullets, like a flock of blue jays, will come carry my black to its final bed? Which photo will be used to water down my blood? Today I did not die, and there is no God or law to thank. The bullet missed my head and landed in another. Today I passed a mirror and did not see a body. Instead, a suggestion, a debate, a blank post-it note there looking back. I haven't enough room to both rage and weep. I go to cry, and each tear turns to steam. I say I matter, and a ghost white hand appears over my mouth. This collection was written in 2017. And that's why I love poetry. I didn't grab this book until I decided that this was the video that I wanted to make today. And going through all of these, they all feel so present to today. And they all feel so much like they're interacting with the present, the past, my future. Love this. All of the books today, check the trigger warnings. They are very heavy. I am a heavy poetry reader. I'm not going to lie to you. The next book that I wanted to share with you is There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce by Morgan Parker. This book is more of a spotlight. This book is a sledgehammer. This book is an axe taken to a locked door. This book is a silk handkerchief wiping away tears. But there is a sense of a appetite and anger to this that I think does so well with the topic. This idea of who the Black woman is outside of what she is expected to be, who the woman is, what the body is outside of the expectations on it. And I do want to say expectations. I think pressures exists a little bit too action forward. I want to say the external expectations, the external visions placed upon the Black woman and the body. I think that is how I want to say that. And then I would say that this book moves as a call to action and a call to community. It's a shouting, it's a direction, it's a smashing, there's volatility to this, and there's, I want to say appetite, there is a hunger to this that I think is so beautiful to speak to how you view the Black woman and how you view the Black body, to feel that hunger and to feel anger and not to allow outside satiation. Chef's kiss. I have 2 poems from this one that I want to share. We're going to start at the beginning. The president has never said the word Black. The president has never said the word Black to the extent that one begins to wonder if he is broken. It is so difficult to open teeth and brass taxes. The president is all like 5 on the bleep hand side. The president be like, we lost a young boy today. The pursuit of happiness is guaranteed for fellow Americans. He is nobody special like us, he says, brothers and sisters. What kind of bodies are movable and feasts? What color are visions? When he opens his mouth, a chameleon is inside, starving. I love how Morgan Parker speaks. I own a couple Morgan Parkers. It was kind of hard just grabbing 5 books today. But Morgan Parker has a bluntness. There is no space for her to want to be misunderstood. And with the topics that she covers, I think that is so important. This need to be understood and this need to not leave spaces, this need to call you out and not to have room for misinterpretation. Yeah. The other one I have is page 58. Because I wanted you to feel this sledgehammer effect. It's just a short one, but goodness, her short ones, just listen. Beyonce celebrates Black History Month. I have almost forgotten my roots are not long, blonde. I have almost forgotten what it means to be at sea. Woof. You know, another thing I love the synopsis of this. The synopsis was written by Morgan Parker, and it says, the only thing more beautiful than Beyonce is God, and God is a Black woman sipping rosé and drawing a lavender bath, texting her mom, belly laughing in the therapist's office, feeling unloved, being on display, daring to survive. I love this book. This is one that I turn back to a lot when I am, struggling as a body. Just stop there. Struggling as a body. Just struggling. I don't need to expand on that. I love Morgan Parker. She says what I need to hear from a sister, from a friend, from a mother, from a cousin, from a baby kid. Like, Morgan Parker does that in the best way. Going into a different set of themes, I wanted to bring up Even the Saints Audition. This is an interrogation. I brought this one up because it feels very different than the other books that I brought up here, because all of these poems exist in question. They are a sentence that ends in arise, which I think is interesting. It brings in topics of spirituality, the body, religion, growth, family, And it touches on fitting into systems and not making those systems into a box, and the expansiveness and the way that you're able to bend these boxes to fit you. I would say that a lot of the questions exist in this concept of separateness or togetherness of all of these themes, and to what degree they are within one another, separate from one another, hand in hand, the same thing, exist inside of, exist as an idea of, and then what to do after that. I think that this is a book that I love because it is a book written by somebody who grew up in a church, but it doesn't necessarily bring in religious beliefs so much as it brings in the guilt of growing up with that aspect of your childhood. I think that is so lovely. It feels like the diary of a sinner's diary, knowing wrong and knowing sin and knowing their wrongness and ugliness and dirtiness and what it means to grow up with that. I would say this one moves like you're gently unfolding origami. There is a sense of like tearing, but accidental. There is a gentleness to how these move. And there also is a kindness, and I would say fear of harming what's being unfolded. So somebody's given you a beautiful origami crane, and you're gently trying to open it to get to the message inside and never getting there. This is a book of questions, but Raych Jackson never even pretends that there is a supposed answer, which I like as well. With topics like religion, I do shy away from books that feel like they're telling me what to believe or telling me how to see. However, I also grew up in a religious household and don't align with the spaces that I was told to align, and what that looks like and how hard that is. This book deals with addiction a lot, and growth. Let me share my poems with you. I don't know how to tell you without just showing you. The first one I want to share is, I have 3 I wanted to share from this one. The first is Praying in Terror. Praying in Terror. Terror is a sinner's uniform. All my panic attacks are a couple sizes too big. Forgotten hand-me-downs. The first public panic attack is at a church camp surrounded by saints who believe terror is what a sinner deserves. Some saints pray the spirit out. Some saints pray I stop faking. Every word is coherent. I don't understand them. A group of adults praying over a child who can't breathe. If God listened to sinners, I would have prayed my mind right a long time ago. Shortly after, I was baptized by my own choice. How can I show God I'm committed without practicing to drown? I'm performing for a spot in heaven. All my commitments are public and won't last. Some saints pray the spirit in. Some saints pray I stop faking. I earned my place in the prayer circle. I thank God, and He guides me back to having my attacks in private. On Job. What if I feel like Job all the time? My soul an ant running through God's fingers, trying to find stability in a palm already pressed against the devil's. On Job. When an event goes wrong, it is encouraged to thank God anyway. God makes no mistakes. Is the string that keeps me tied to Him. What if faith during hard times is just a leash, while I'm a pawn in whatever chest-puffing contest God has with the devil? It's so beautifully written. Another one that I think is very easily digestible. I would say that these first 4 books that I'm going to bring up, including this next one, are very easy to take in. Their meanings are meant to be understood. There is an ease to understand these, and there is an ease in intaking these. The 4th book I have is Lord of the Butterflies by Andrea Gibson. This one is very different than a lot of the books that I personally intake. It is a story of hopelessness, but I would say if hopelessness were the thread that got woven into other themes. So hopelessness is the thread that actually creates community, creates love, creates hope, but it does weave itself into this bigger blanket. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. I'm really just sitting with these, and I just wanted to come here with raw thoughts. I didn't want to plan this out too much. This book is different, like I said, than a lot of ones that I read, because this one feels like a journal in stanza. Andrea Gibson is a spoken word poet, and for her to put spoken word on paper, this is a book that is meant to be read aloud. I am such a fan of books that live on the paper, so it was a very different experience for me to take this one in. I have a few for you. Diagnosis. I suffer from unrequited self-love. I love myself, but I don't love myself back. Can we just take a second? Just one more time, because it's so short. I suffer from unrequited self-love. I love myself, but I don't love myself back. Woof. That's what I'm saying. Like, these are ones that, like, when said on paper, it's just this tiny little stanza, but when spoken, when brought to life orally, Andrea. White feminism. Noun. A racism that claims it is at least better than no feminism at all. Like at least Hitler was a vegetarian. Like we could actually get comfortable being the uneaten animal in the lap of the man making lampshades out of human skin. Your life. It isn't that you don't like boys. It's that you only like boys you want to be. David with his jaw carved out of the side of a cliff. Malcolm, who doesn't have secrets, just stories he owes no one. Chris, the basketball hero with a tic, blinks 15 times when he makes a shot. You spend hours blinking in the mirror wishing you could be a star like him. Mary Levine calls you a dyke, and you don't have the language to tell her she's wrong. And right. You just show up to her house promising to paint your fingernails red with what will gush from her busted face if she ever says it again. You're in the 7th grade. You don't even know you want a girlfriend. You still believe in the people who believe in Jesus. Can't even feel that desire through its hell threat. You just want to kick your desk on the way to the principal's office, slouch into detention, cut your hair and spit. This one goes on longer, but I just thought that I couldn't go past this book without reading the opening scene to you. This one's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. I do think Lord of the Butterflies is a really good title for this, because this one moves like fluttering wings. It moves like weaving. It moves like it breathes. It is an oral work. Absolutely. You can feel how spoken it is. Now, these 4, I would say, are very easily accessible books. The last book is from a author who I would truthfully read. I would read his grocery lists. I would read his receipts. I would cry if he gave me access to his diary, because Danez Smith is a talent. However, I will say these poems are less accessible. There is more of a gray space here. It is more difficult to get into, and you are left confused and filling in blanks and parsing through meaning. But I love books like this. Danez Smith is, I don't know the words for it, one of the greatest talents ever. This book, this collection is written with a fervor, a volatility. It's written with an explosiveness. There's an unflinching honesty to this book. There is none of that gentleness. It feels like the alcohol being poured onto a wound. It isn't the wound. It isn't what hurt the person. But it is this stinging, cleansing, exposing feeling, getting all the rocks and the dirt out of this gash so painfully. That's what this feels like. I have a couple from this one. I have a couple from it. Oh, I'm so obsessed with Danez Smith. I am so excited that I get to share this with you. Also, Danez Smith will make me cry. This is not one that you enter into if you don't want to feel agony. And even the black guy's profile reads, "Sorry, no black guys." Imagine a tulip, upon seeing a garden full of tulips, shed its petals in disgust. Praise some bee will bring its pollen to a rose bush. Imagine shadows longing for a room with light in every direction. You look in the mirror and see a man you refuse to love. Small child sleeping near Clorox, dreaming of soap suds and milk. If no one has told you you are beautiful and lovable and black and enough and so you pretty, you am I. What? Speechless, no words, just feelings. Bear. For you, I descend my body to battle. My body, let my blood sing of tearing itself apart, hollow cords of white knights' intravenous joust. Love, I want and barely know how to do much else. Don't speak to me about raids you could loose on me, the clan of rebel cells who thirst to watch their home burn. Love, let me burn if it means you and I have one night with no barrier but skin. This isn't about danger, but about faith, about being wasted on your name. If love is a room of broken glass, leave me to dance until my feet are memory. If love is a hole wide enough to be God's mouth, let me plunge into that holy dark and forget the color of light. Love, stay in me until our bodies forget what divides us. Until your hands are my hands and your blood is my blood and your name is my name and his and his. I have one more, another short one. This last one is so crazy to read. It's so painful to read. Crazy, not even in an ironic way. It's so personal to be 3 lines. To be 3 lines. This poem that I want to end on. Danez Smith writes on sickness, on being HIV positive, on being gay, on being black. And I think this last poem is such a metaphor. I will shed tears on camera right now. Fear of needles. Instead of getting tested, you take a blade to your palm, hold your ear to the wound. What? Danez Smith is so talented. I own one other book from him that I haven't gotten to yet, but I haven't been reading poetry lately. I feel like the world is so weird and life is so weird, and I'm already sad enough that I haven't wanted to read something that makes me look in the mirror so deeply. But sitting here with these books and talking to you about poetry just reminds me that it doesn't feel like I'm being shouted at or a magnifying glass is being held to wrongs. It feels like I'm being understood. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel safe reading poetry, even though they are such heavy topics. To speak the thoughts that I don't have the ability to put words to. Chef's kiss. 10 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of a different video, just hanging out, talking poetry. I don't talk poetry because I don't know how to recommend you a poetry book. And then I was just like, why am I not just reading you a couple poems? And if one of them has jumped out to you, even if you're not a poetry reader, even if you're not, you can go grab it and just ask me to do a bit of a closer reading. I'm here. If any of these spoke to you in a way that called to you, or even if you don't want to go pick up the books, I hope you got something to journal about later. Hope you get something that got you thinking, got you feeling inspired. I don't have anything else for you today. Thank you for hanging out with me and my sick voice. I have consumed about 1,000 Ricola today, struggling to not lose my voice, but I really wanted to hang out and talk. I do think our next few videos will be coffee table videos because I've been very sick, low energy. You know, the like groggy sickness. I've been feeling that pretty deeply. So we might just be hanging out at the coffee table for the next couple videos. Comment down below if you've read any of these authors, if there's any poems that you love. Comment down below if you have any poetry recommendations. I am always taking poetry recommendations. Comment down below if you didn't like any of these poems or if you don't like any of these poets, and tell me why. I don't love every book of poetry, but I do think conversations are important and viewpoints are important, and poetry does that. I can read whole poetry collections and be like, that didn't quite connect with me, and I'll go buy it. I had a lot of fun talking to you today, and I will see you on Saturday. I'll talk to you next time.